Good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's Cards for Contemplation reading. So, when I was discerning the cards to use, two were very clear. And at first, to be honest, I wasn't sure. I actually anticipated just focusing on it one single card. But two were making themselves known, the sixth card in the deck and the seventh card in the deck. And as I put my hand over the sixth card, I felt just like a peace, a coolness, a harmony. And when I put my hand over the seventh card, there was very much a fiery energy. It's very hot, a lot of heat. And I was like, well, it's like we've got a little like fire and water action is what it's feeling like. And so I took both cards as our cards for contemplation today. All right, and so starting off, the fiery card, card number 7, which made itself known first, is none other than the Empress. Okay, we've got a beautiful, beautiful graphic here by Jessica Roux. This is the Tarot of the Woodland Wardens, and I've got that deck below, mentioned below. And if you're interested, it looks like this. Okay, beautiful, beautiful cards. Okay, and so we have the Empress. All right, and the Empress is a threshold, okay, an entrance, a passage into enclosure or form. All right, she is the fertile doorway through which force becomes life. All right, she represents generative life force. She is the matrix through which primal masculine dynamism meets formative womb intelligence, the matrix through which wisdom meets understanding. Okay, and we actually had pulled this in reverse, if that means anything to anyone, though in this particular reading, well, I'll share with you what that is meaning to me. And so going back to this heat, and noting the Empress as this doorway, I got this like image of like heat at the door and kind of like putting your hand up, and you could feel it, and there's that sense of like stepping back and this sense of intensity. um, and the message that came through, and I believe that is actually where the reversal is kind of this, the reversal is that moment of like stepping back, of like, ooh, that's intense, that's hot, yikes. Okay, that is the reversal, and that the message here, the call here, it says move towards what burns you, move towards what burns you, and that this is the sacrifice. This is what it means to offer your life. Okay, that there's a willingness here to walk through the flames, to walk through the fire, and again, move toward what burns you. Okay, and then this kind of like an enter if you dare type of feeling. And what is also interesting to me is that this was, after shuffling, this was the seventh card in the deck, and sevens in Hermetic Kabbalah, or like Hermetic Tarot Kabbalah, this kind of the mix of the two, um, represent testing. Okay, and so I find it interesting that we pulled this card. We pull an Empress in reverse, right? And it feels like the question is, will you enter? All right, and like, and this notion of like testing the truth in your heart, and testing whether or not you're going to step into this call, and so and say yes to the heat, um, yes to walking through the fire, yes to the sacrifice of that, knowing that that is your heart's truth. Okay, and that again, the Empress here is the doorway into that, into, she is again the generating life force. All right, so she's the doorway into kind of fulfilling that that life force purpose. Okay, I believe that's all for this card. And then for the water side of things, our cooling agent, so to speak, what we pull is the Ace of Wands, and it was the Ace of Wands in upright. All right, and so of a few things. One, wands are the creative impulse and the desire to act. Okay, they are ruled by the element of fire, which I found quite interesting. I'm like, all right, well, this is fascinating. I wonder how the Ace of Wands here is going to be the cooling agent. All right, they represent ambition, vitality, direction, and initiative, and they are your will and life force. So, like, what a perfect pairing with this Empress here, this generative life force, and then we've got this cooling agent around. Again, with will and life force being the wands, and aces represent raw potential. Okay, so that raw potential that like moves us through the door. All right. And so again, I went back to like, okay, how is this the cooling agent? Well, it's interesting again, like this was the sixth card in the deck after shuffling. Sixes in the Hermetic Kabbalah tarot combination thing is sixes are harmony. All right. And so to me, immediately with that is that taking action in this direction, in the direction of your heart's truth, in that calling in towards the fire, taking action towards the fire, is what is going to restore balance and right order, bringing about a greater experience of harmony. Okay. Taking a step towards the calling of your heart is going to release tension and pressure. Okay, like a release valve. All right. And so, just to note a few things that Jessica mentions in the guidebook, she says, surrounded by fireflies in the night, surrounded by fireflies in the night sky, the wand hovers in the air as a gift to us all. And as I read that, like the first time I read it, it was like, oh, it's like lighting the path. But when I read that the second time, surrounded by fireflies in the night sky, the wand hovers in the air as a gift to us all. What came to me is that like you are that wand. You are that gift. The gift to us all. Okay, and that perhaps that is the journey, in moving through this doorway. All right, and instead of taking that step back, now we're moving through, and in so doing, you become this wand. Okay, Jessica writes, fireflies light the way in darkness and show us the path forward. How perfect. All right, so my question is, are you a firefly? And to whom are you a firefly? Alternatively, or additionally, who and what are the fireflies in your life? Who and what are the fireflies that are lighting that path in your life? Okay? And making that way in the darkness. Okay, and then Jessica also writes, let inspiration guide you on your path. And I wrote, let inspiration guide you along your path. She says it's time to listen. And so the question I pose is, if possibly to ask yourself is, what am I resisting? What call can I embrace? Okay, and then note that your life is here for a reason. If this is your life, this Ace of Wands, this pure raw potential reminds me of the Fool a bit, that all things are contained within the Fool. Okay, so you've got this pure raw potential and this creative life force energy. Okay, and your life is here for a reason. And what is that? What is that? And something that's just like the deepest calling and purpose. I know that we serve and have so many purposes. Purpi? Purposi? Purposes, right? And also can be reduced to a single moment of simply being present, right? Being present, being open, being love in the world. And alongside that, I do believe in a deep calling, in something that's something that sets your heart on fire, and something that often we do take a step back towards because the magnitude of that heat, right? The magnitude of that heat at the door can be very overwhelming. But what is that? And that can be and look. It can be anything and look any number of ways. It doesn't have to be the stereotypical way that we necessarily think of a calling or purpose. It can be from any realm. It can Perhaps it's a role, but it may not be mm, more of the kind of stereotypical, obvious roles, perhaps. Um, it can be how you like who you are, your role in relationship to other people or another person, something that is maybe not connected in any way, shape, or form to business or creative pursuits or money, or abundance in that way. It might be something that is much more emotional, much more, I don't want to say much more spiritual. That's where my some default brain was seeking to go. But it could be, like in a familial type of relationship. Could it be as a parent, as a guardian? Might it be as a spouse or partner? Um, might it be as a friend, as a caregiver in ways? There are a number of ways. It could be artistic pursuits. It could be business endeavors, more typically or traditionally, certain career roles. Certainly, there's just any which way. Might it be tending to the earth? In a number of ways, tending to animals, in a variety of ways. There are so many things and ways that it could be that, I think the invitation is to keep an open mind, um, and to not let the mind close the door on what the heart is seeking, on what burns in the heart. Again, to move toward what burns you in whatever ways that is, mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally. Wait, maybe not physically. Scratch. More emotionally, spiritually. Um, where's that passion, that vitality, and in a way that is deeply heart centered, in a way that is a calling, in a way that is devotion, in a way that holds deep meaning and purpose. So that is what we have today, friends. That is the offering for today. All right. And may this bless you in whatever ways that it can and does. And we will see you in the next one. Stay well.